Hey guys, welcome to episode 4. This is Wilson Wei, and I'm Luis, the host. So, Wilson was a software consultant, traveler, and loves Mexico, in particular, Guadalajara. And just this man, we met each other in Medellin, Colombia, through a couch surfing event, which was crazy because I only met him once, and we hung out for like a few hours. Then we stayed friends on like Instagram or whatnot. Then we met up like a year later, almost exactly a year later, in Mexico City, and we hung out there for it was a day or two, and yeah, it was good times. But yeah, so I want to go back to how did you end up traveling all over the world, and now you have some plans to go to China sometime soon, but I think that got pushed away because of the coronavirus, which is a good move from your employer that you're not going out
Oh
there.
yeah,
Was it,
absolutely.
yeah, man, was it always like your dream to travel all over the world and to do this like from wherever you want it almost?
Yeah, man. Let's start there. I I have family in Taiwan. I've growing up, I would always go back to Taiwan. Maybe every year, maybe once every 2 years. But yeah, I've always, uh, you know, gone and had that multicultural identity within myself.
Right.
But I didn't really start getting into it until maybe after college.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did have an internship in Shenzhen, China one summer.
Shenzhen.
Hopped over to Hong Kong maybe every other week. And they're bordering cities and they're two different worlds, both very cool places. And the contrast there really inspired me.
Right.
And after, I left China that summer, I graduated college and decided to do a world tour. It was super cute, that name. But
Yeah.
because I basically went to Asia, and then I hopped over to Israel, visited my friends,
Cool.
did a quick Europe tour,
Mm-hmm.
went back to the States, and after that, I was just like, this is fun. This is just genuinely, fundamentally, just exciting, and I embraced it.
Right.
And then my first solo travel trip was to Europe. Then afterwards, I felt ready, to be. Between U.S. and Europe, it's somewhat similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like not compared to, if you compare two other countries, like you might not have that similarity.
Right. Right.
But after Europe, I felt ready, and that's when I decided to solo travel in Africa, and that was a hell of an experience. I learned a lot. Learned a lot about the culture of the people in 5 different African countries.
Mm-hmm.
Spent 4 months there, and yeah, no, I've been to Africa, but in the grand scheme of things, I've been to 10% of the countries in Africa. So that's nothing, right? It's like there's so much of
You just
Africa.
10%. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, man.
And then after that, I was like, I've always wanted to learn Spanish, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what better way to do that than to actually focus and target in Latin America? And that's when I had the privilege of meeting the Luis Delgado in Medellin, Colombia. And yeah,
Places.
I know, right? And it's taken me to Mexico, specifically Guadalajara. Shout out to my tapatíos.
Hey.
But and no, I just fell in love with the culture and spent a good amount of time there. Traveled there quite frequently over a period of time, and when I could, and really got to know the culture. I made friends. I have friends who don't speak English, so that was pretty challenging in the beginning, but my
Mm-hmm.
Spanish got better. I felt like I was immersed in the culture. The food was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Definitely.
I just felt very Mexican for a bit. Like I had to look at myself in the mirror at one point and be like, wait, hold on. You're not Mexican.
You're not
You're
Mexican.
just a regular old gringo chino here.
In Mexico.
Yeah. But yeah, and next, to your other point, I do have plans of going to China, but breaking news, due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, prayers to everybody affected. But due to that virus, my move date has been postponed a couple of months. We'll see where that takes us. But as of now, I'm going to make the most out of what I'm going to do. And but yeah, I'm looking forward to China. I really, really am.
Looking forward to visiting you in China too.
See you there, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So I every time like I ask you like what you're up to, you're like, oh, I'm about to go to like Peru. I'm gonna go to Argentina like tomorrow or something like. Dude, I remember like one time you went to like 3-4 countries like within a week, and I was like, dude, like how are you doing that? But was it always like this? Like you're just like just ability and just even maybe just will to do it like just randomly? Was it something that like one day after college you what happened after college? Like you graduated from college. You mentioned that you went on a kind of like world tour internship kind of thing. But when you got back, did you just have the idea, I'm going to leave? Or was it like, I'm just going to follow this like, career path and see where it kind of goes? Or, was it something that pushed you to do this? Or it's just kind of like happened?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's several ways to look at this, but, I just felt like a little kid who, just can't stop nagging about, hey, I want this Kit Kat, Mom. I want this lollipop. Please buy it for me. But instead of lollipops and Kit Kats, it was traveling. As a somebody in their early 20s, I was like, oh my God, I just want to travel and see the world. Super millennial of me, but my first job was in oil and gas, and honestly, that was a tough period for me because during that time, the oil market was quite poor. The stocks plummeted down to like $20 a barrel or something like that. It was pretty bad. Yeah. Everybody was getting laid off left and right.
What year was this?
It was scary. I'm sorry?
What year was this?
This was like, what was it, 2015, 16-ish.
Okay. Cool.
And it was tough. I had a girlfriend at a time too who lived in Houston. Just juggling all that, it was tough. And I ended up getting laid off and didn't know what to do. But, at that time, it was like, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It really did. And it was like, what's happening next? And that was scary. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything with you, Luis Delgado, but it was like, what do I do next? And that's when I had that idea. Well, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity to travel in Africa. Something that I had been on my mind for a while, and a lot of my friends were like, "Oh man, go find yourself. Go find yourself. It's a tough time in your life." And really, the focus was actually, I just want to travel. I just want to. I just want to travel. Part of it was, maybe I can put myself in a different environment, maybe clear my mind and relax. Yeah, that was part of it. Can't deny that. But the main priority was really just to travel. And
was it difficult? Was there like a moment where you kind of decided, or was it like over a course of like a period? You're like, what, I think it's time, where you're like, going through so much. You're like, what, I need something else. I need something different. I need to,
Yeah, I guess it was kind of a little bit of both that, and also just saying, when I'm not advancing my career, I'm traveling. When I'm not traveling, I'm advancing my career. I don't waste time here. That was just kind of the mindset that I had. So when I was, when I had that, in a very positive and more practical way, I'll say it, that opportunity that I had, because, I wasn't binded to any job, to any obligations. So I said, let's do it. We don't get these opportunities very often in life, I feel like, especially as a U.S. citizen, wanting to advance their careers. So that's when I was like, let's do it. I put my foot down and never looked back.
Awesome. What did your family think about this? Family, parents, some friends. The girlfriend I'm sure she probably didn't necessarily like the 100%, but
Mm,
how did
right.
that play out?
It's, oh man, I mean, we could talk all day about this, Elise, but let me think of the
How do you
5-minute
summarize
version.
it?
But yeah, I mean, let's start with my parents first.
Okay.
So honestly, they were lenient, I guess. It's not like, they. I feel like the real test was when I went to Israel, and I was
Mm,
like 21 years old.
got it.
Oh, they were scared for me. They're like, oh, Israel, it's a war zone.
Right.
Everybody's fighting. That kind of stigma. That's in a lot of ways unfair, in my opinion, at least. But I had friends there from school. Shout out to FEU Vol and Dan. Thanks for hosting me that one summer. But that was, that was awesome. But after Israel, I feel like that was really the test. My parents were like,
Got it.
okay, you know what you're doing. Okay, we're good. We're good. You can travel wherever. It was just like, for some reason, Israel was the test. I don't know
Well,
why.
okay.
But, and so yeah, they're pretty lenient. They were pretty lenient about that. My friends, um, I think they were genuinely confused. They're like, wait, why? And I think like part of it is the, American culture of, we want to advance our careers, and
Right.
that should be the traditional path to success,
Hmm.
etc. And for me, it was very hard to maybe create my own path.
Hmm.
And I think we kind of talked about this last time, but how do you get out of that environment, or like at least embrace it, but also know that like you can take your own path,
Hmm.
and be judged for it in the beginning, but at the same time, it's something that you know it's basically shaped into the person I am today. I feel like I'm more, I can think freely and say, you know what, I'm going to do this.
Hmm.
I'm not going to wait for anyone's approval, I guess. I mean, it sounds kind of,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Like,
like,
yeah, you don't need anyone's permission to do things.
yeah,
Hmm.
like, I feel like, that was kind of, it's going to sound really, what's the word, cheesy, but that was like the turning point. I said, I made a very hard decision to break up with my girlfriend too.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was difficult, but,
I'm sure,
I
man.
think looking back, it
Hmm.
was, it was it was the right thing for both of us. And then, that's when I traveled around Africa, um, and now I think that, I mean, what else? Like, yeah, my family, my friends, other people, it's not what, I mean, it takes a certain person to do it, and it's not for everybody, obviously, but,
Hmm.
um, I feel like I kind of grew through that experience.
Yeah, man, I think anytime you travel anywhere or push yourself, especially out of the where you're from, say you're from where you Oklahoma, right? Um,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, dude, of all places. It's not like it was like a major city like New York City or LA,
Right.
But to hear
Right.
someone from Oklahoma do this, it's I guess not as common. A majority of people in Oklahoma, probably your city, probably aren't doing what you're doing. And so yeah,
Mhm.
so you went to Africa, traveled for a bit, and then what happens next? You come back, and then what? You come back. Where do you go? Do you start looking for
Good
jobs?
question.
And at that point, are you
Yeah.
looking for like a job that lets you travel, or are you just looking for any job?
When I came back from Africa, I went to San Francisco. Uh, I mean,
Like
silly
the
me,
hub.
but the Silicon Valley idea, it's like, oh, cool, this is so cool. I
Hmm.
wanted to work in software.
Gotcha.
I didn't want to be a software engineer.
Hmm.
A, because I didn't have the skills at the time. B, I don't know if I want to be coding all day. I don't think that's for me.
Hmm.
But anyways, I went to San Francisco. I mean, I've always wanted to live in San Francisco at the time. And I say, I'm just going to go there. I don't know anybody there.
Hmm.
And I think the experiences through traveling, whether it's solo or with friends, kind of helped me, um, what's the word? Just it instilled confidence in me that I could just go to San Francisco, not know anybody, and look for jobs, and have very little certainty. I think that's one of the big skills that I've really picked up from traveling that's relevant to a professional career is how do you deal with uncertainty? And
I love it, dude.
that's something, yeah, no, I mean, I think it's very important and I feel very strongly about it. But, you know, once I got to San Francisco, I said, I have no idea. I have this much money that I saved up, and
that seems like a lot of money, bro. This much money.
I mean, these are stacks of $1 bills, so I don't know about that, Louis. So I was just like, you know, networking. You know, how do you approach somebody? Be personable. Reach out to people on LinkedIn. Reach out to, you know, connections. See if they can introduce you to new connections. Things that, you know, I also learned from traveling. In fact, I think I'm going to write a LinkedIn article about this one day, Luis. But anyways, I moved to San Francisco, looked for jobs, failed. Again, I'm not the only one who's ever done this before, but, you know, at the same time, you know, after 3 months of nothing, failures, rejections, I ended up landing 3 job offers in 1 week.
Really?
And I was very proud of that. So, I ended up choosing 1 job, and then that led me to living in San Francisco for quite a bit of time. So it was a great experience. I love San Francisco, and it's one of my favorite cities in the world.
Yeah, dude. I haven't been yet. I have a bunch of great friends that I met through traveling that are from San Francisco. So just, you know, one day I definitely want to visit. So yeah, man. But that's awesome that you finally get the job living in San Francisco, doing what you want to do, and then what? And then eventually you start traveling more throughout Latin America, where we met in Colombia, and then somehow at some point, you know, decided that Mexico was like, you know, what was your experience, you know, traveling back and forth to Mexico, like, you know, and what did you learn about yourself, and you know, how was it, you know, going there without really knowing, I guess you didn't know Spanish that well at that point. You know, I mean, it's like I said, it takes a lot. You know, for me, I know Spanish, so it's easy just travel throughout Latin America. But for you, you know, you had to basically learn the language and, you know, kind of, and then make some friends, you know, while you were out there traveling. So how was that like? You know, did it change you? Was it hard? And yeah.
No, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, you know, through the experiences up to this point, it was just not that, I mean, how should I say it? Like, I felt like there wasn't much, you know, negative risk for me to explore the Latin American, I guess, countries. And I remember landing in Guadalajara for the first time and staying in an Airbnb, not knowing anybody.
That takes guts, man. It takes guts.
Thanks, but, you know, it was just like,
especially from you hear in the media, like, oh, Mexico's dangerous, and especially that part of Mexico. People just usually go to Mexico City, Cancun, but this is the real, the real Mexico.
Absolutely. I mean, I felt like I could say, "Hola, cómo estás? Adios," and that was it. And I remember sitting down in the restaurant for the first time, and I couldn't order a single thing. Like, I just look at the menu and be like, okay, and I just point to it and just smile and nod awkwardly, and the waiter would get it and, you know, understand. And I mean, just nonverbal communication, you know, it's always the best, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just really inspired. You know, the adventurous spirit in me, my extroverted personality, the idea that I want to be as worldly as possible. Like, I was inspired. I really wanted to learn Spanish, and you know, it just went back and forth. And when I was in Medellin with you, Luis, I actually came across this school, a Spanish English school, that offered classes also online.
Really?
So from there, I was sold. And
do you know the name of it by any chance?
Yeah, the Viking teacher.
Okay.
Shout out to
Shout out to the Viking
Jorge. Jorge, man, that guy's the man. And Maria Jose, she was my teacher for like 7 months. But but yeah, like I took classes for 13 months, every Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour for over a year. And they really helped me with my conjugations and correcting my errors, moods, things that like, I feel like it'd be so hard to learn like without help. Yeah, you can watch YouTube videos, you can keep conversing. But I feel like somebody to walk hold your hand through the rules was really important. But again, like this is that at that time, it was the time to be in Latin America. Like I had an African experience, although we just said that it was 10% of the countries there. So there's much more.
10% African experience.
Yeah, it's nothing, right? 5 countries I went to in Africa were totally beautiful, but we got a whole different world of Africa there. And I plan on going back one day, but during that time, the focus was Latin America, and I really wanted a genuine experience, an experience that made me feel like I was immersed in the culture, and just being Asian in the USA versus being Asian in Mexico, 2 totally different things. And I loved it. I think it was awesome. Like people were like, "Oh, Chino," but like in a very nice way, and I embraced it. But yeah, I mean, it was just. I have nothing but positive things to say about that Latin America experience. I felt very welcomed. My Spanish is to the point where I can basically say anything I want to say now. I still have trouble like understanding when people speak quickly or if it's something very specific.
Right.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. My Spanish isn't Luis Delgado's Spanish, or, it's not 100%, but
yeah,
it's enough to where I can say anything I want to say and communicate effectively. Yeah, make friends.
I mean, I've heard you speak Spanish, man. It's really good, especially, and all the
stop it.
all the slang, all the the local terminology. That I think that's what makes you stand out even more. A quick story: we were in Mexico City in a bar, and and Wilson starts talking to just everybody there, and then people just, I don't know, you were just like the party man, and it definitely helps because you knew that that Spanish, man. So yeah, kudos for that, dude. So
yeah, thanks, man.
what would you say was the number one thing you learned, I guess, either from yourself or from Mexico, during that period that you were traveling back and forth?
No, great question. I mean, I think the biggest lesson I learned was that as humans, as Americans, whoever you are, we should embrace different cultures.
Right.
I think that the U.S. and Mexico are neighbors, but 2 totally different countries. Like, and I think that's something we should, be aware of.
Right.
And I think most people kind of understand that. But, just being in Mexico, and even Mexico has their own culture. Like, you can't compare Mexico with Guatemala, the same way. I mean, they're just different, and fundamentally. So I think the biggest lesson I learned was, wow, like the delta between what I knew about Mexico, let's say today versus in the past is just, I'm mind blown. I didn't even know what cumbia music was, and that's like a big part of their culture. So it was just, it's so great, in my opinion, to be able to go there and respect the culture, to learn it. And, hopefully the people around me learn some things from me. That's always the goal too, give back and also receive some knowledge. And I think it's a very beautiful thing. So I guess to answer your question in one sentence, it's really the biggest thing I learned was really understanding the culture at a deep level,
And is it what's portrayed on the media? Like, what would you say to the people that are watching that? About people that say, "Oh, Mexico this, Mexico that." Yeah. What would you say that what would you recommend?
I mean, that's a great question, Luis. I mean, maybe a rhetorical question for you. When people think of Colombia, what do they think? They think Pablo Escobar, right?
Yeah.
And that's somewhat of a negative connotation.
It
Like,
is.
but you know, it's, as you know very well, it's more than that. You know, it's um, and, you know, just meeting you in Medellin, you were there for quite a bit of time. I can't remember how long exactly, but yeah, it's, I mean, the culture, the people, and it's much more than just, oh yeah, a famous drug lord, you know, in the past.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are dangerous parts in Mexico. There's no doubt about that.
Hmm.
But I think that, you know, the first thing you should think about Mexico is not necessarily, you know, drug cartels or whatnot.
Right.
And I feel like there's definitely a stigma, not
Hmm.
just for Mexico, but for all of Latin America.
Hmm.
You know, again, people are entitled to their opinions, but you know, after being there for a while, I think that's kind of unfair. You know, I think it's you know, to be able to you know, talk with people, to I realize how nice they are. At least in Guadalajara, you know, the Tapatíos, the
Zapatillas are
brothers from
nice.
another mother.
Yeah.
And people are really nice there. Food's amazing. I mean, you think of Mexico, I mean, Luis Miguel should be on that list. You know, just like the little things like that, you know.
Hmm.
And again, so I guess again, I like to ramble on, so feel free to cut me off at any time, Luis. But you know, I think you know, you should think, you know, be open to the possibility maybe that,
Right.
yeah, there's an awesome aspect to the culture, and it's totally true.
Yeah, I always tell people, people that are traveling that I mean in other countries that like you guys definitely need to visit Mexico and actually leave Mexico City, Cancun, and check out some other places because just there's so much more to Mexico than just that. So much. Just so many Puebla, Guadalajara, Monterrey. There's so many beautiful cities, beautiful people, and a lot of good food.
Oh yeah, food is
Oh,
up there. It's so
a lot of
amazing.
food. So Wilson, man, what is now that back in the States we talked about the coronavirus. Well, what is the I guess what's your next move? And obviously we know eventually you're gonna end up in China, but what's the plan out there? And yeah, man, just curious. No, dude.
Yeah. Oh, good question. I mean, I think I'm gonna leave Luis Delgado's fans on their toes, but you know, it's I mean, this was breaking news just 2 days
Mm,
ago for me. So
right.
the move to China has been delayed. Still not. I mean, you know, I accepted it. You know, it is what it is. Absolutely the right decision, safe decision. Prayers to those who have been affected. It is not a fun thing to go through, but you know, I'm going to take my time and evaluate, you know, what's the next best step for me. You know, what is it? You know, during these next couple months when we
Mm,
expect to see the coronavirus die down a little bit, you know, what's next? You know, is it LA? Is it Chicago? Is it Miami? I don't know.
mm.
We'll have to find out in a couple of weeks. But you know, I want to keep Luis Delgado's fans on their toes for right
So
now. But
so
it will be something. I will tell you that.
It'll be something, dude. Awesome, man. I was gonna ask you some last final question. Um, from everything that you've gone through up to this point, up to today, what is something that you learned in life, whether that you learned, from someone or you kind of like it kind of happened to you. Um, what's a lesson that you learned or something that you will always carry with you? Whether you learned that they're traveling at your job, in Mexico, what is something that you want to carry with you forever, and and when you get the chance, teach that to other people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds kind of corny, but patience.
Patience, dude. I,
And
I was not expecting patience. Patience. I like it. I like it. I like it.
it's so ironic because I'm the most impatient person ever. But I think, you know, patience in the sense of, um, you know, actually, can I change my answer?
Yeah, you're free to change it,
I don't know.
You're free to change it, man.
There's this somewhat corny saying, but I love it. I absolutely love it. You know what it is, Luis? I'm about to say it, but
I don't know what it is.
So life is about 90% of what life is about 10% of what happens to you and 90% about how you respond to it. And that's
100%.
That's something that I stand by day in and day out. When your flight is canceled, what do? You got to rebook, right? Don't waste time. Go rebook, and this is a fresh example because I was feeling very pissed off about 5 days ago that this kind of happened. No, it was a delay, but it wasn't a cancellation. But anyways, what's the next step? Okay, this bad thing happened. What's the next step? Something that I've really learned through the years that has shaped me into the person I am today and will continue to shape me in the future is kind of this mantra, this saying, because from the Buddhism point of view, life is hard. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're, Mark Zuckerberg or if you're Wilson Wei, Luis Delgado, if you're anybody, life is hard and there's no way around it. So it's really about, making the most out of what you have. This is something that I live and die by today. So again, I kind of talked about it earlier, but I went through some hard things, getting laid off, having the tough decision to break up with a girlfriend that, we got along really well. So that was a tough decision. But, in the end, I think, okay, well, I have this opportunity to, move to Africa to go to Africa and travel for a bit. Let's do it. Why not? And, my move to China is delayed by a couple of months. Yeah, that sucks. And there's nothing I can do about it, but it's the right decision. So what's the next step? I was beating around the bush when you asked me, what is the next step? But, I will figure something out. It's going to be something in the next week or two, but this is, this is the positive way of thinking it. And I live and die by this rule, but this is an opportunity for me to do something else, prior to that move. So
I love that. I love the positivity, the way that you look at things. And I love how you're just moving forward, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree. I think everyone should live by this and apply it to their life. And I actually have one last question. I promise this is the last.
Hey man, fire away.
What do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? Oh man, dude, I gotta take my jacket off for this, Luis. So,
yeah, all right.
All right. All right, what do I want to be remembered for? Honestly, I want to be remembered as somebody who was very positive. There are a lot of messed up things in this world. There are a lot of negative things in this world that are happening. I want to be remembered as somebody who brought a lot of joy, positivity, new ideas to the table. And, whether that's with my family, whether it's with, other people, whether it's with my friends, it makes me feel great and accomplished when people say, Wilson, you came into the room, you lighted up the room, you brought energy, and we appreciate that. That means the world to me. And so, whether it's using my skills professionally, that's, an element as well, whether it's, traveling and bringing new ideas to other travelers, learning new ideas from other travelers. I just want to be remembered as somebody who is always positive, regardless of what situation we're in, and can make a situation better. So that's fundamentally who I am, I think. Just love being extroverted and positive and bring good energy to whatever group I'm in.
Love it, man. Love the answer, dude. Well, man, appreciate you being on the podcast, and hopefully, man, then maybe we'll have a second one, and we'll let the fans know where you're at and what you're
Oh,
up to at that point.
hey, next time it's my turn to interview you. I mean, this guy's interviewing everybody. Nobody knows who he is. Like this. I mean, I know who Luis Delgado is. Like, it's not fair to the rest of the people. Like, this man is the man. Like, oh, I can't say enough good things about you, brother.
All right, man. We have again, man. Appreciate it, and yeah, man, we'll be talking outside of this, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.